What's going on, everybody? Tello Talk Podcast back again with another episode this week. Last week we talked about the Major League Baseball midseason awards and just how the season's going so far. And today we're switching back to the sport that basically runs this whole thing, football. National Football League, more college coming this year as well. Just everything football. And you might be thinking, oh, maybe we're talking something about the Raiders today because of the shirt I'm wearing, the three-time Super Bowl Raiders shirt. Great shirt, got it in Vegas. I just thought it was really cool. Not even that big of a Raiders fan. My dad's a huge Raiders guy, so, just repping it. But we're not talking about the Raiders. We're not talking about the AFC West today. We're going to be talking about standings and record predictions for this upcoming 2023 season. But instead of talking about the AFC West, as I've been saying, we're going to be talking about the first team, the first division's AFC South. The AFC South is the first one we'll be talking about today. And then next week will be the NFC South. And then we will go on AFC North, NFC North, AFC East, NFC East, and then finish with AFC and NFC West. That's how the schedule is going to go. However, today we're starting with the AFC South, and basically what I've done is I've been taking time doing research, looking at teams, and going through and making a little list and going through every team's records and schedules. And as of right now, I've got the AFC South the most finalized out of all the divisions that I like the most. So we're going to be doing the AFC East today, and then AFC South. And then we're going to be having a special guest on for the NFC South episode, which will be fun to talk about the NFC South with him. But anyways, we'll get into it with the first team. We'll just start off with no nonsense. It's going to be the Tennessee Titans. Now, I'm going to pull up their schedule up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, just so you can see the screen. And so now you can see who they play, what their schedule is going to look like this next upcoming year. Now, for the Tennessee Titans, they're in a weird spot for me. They're in a very weird spot. They had a chance to win the division last year, finished the season, 7-10, 8-9, somewhere around there, I believe. Ryan Tannehill was the quarterback, had a little bit of an okay year, not a good year, sorry. Had Joshua Dobbs playing the Week 18 must-need-win game, and he actually didn't do terrible, but it's not something you want to see out of him. You still expect Tannehill to come into next year as the starting quarterback, in my opinion, although you just drafted Will Levis in the early second round. I don't think he starts right away. Your main goal for this offense, once again, is the man on the screen, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, if he plays full seasons, he's absolutely dominant. He's the most unstoppable running back in the entire NFL. But we'll get into their record for the year so far. Obviously, we won't be talking preseason. That doesn't really matter, in my opinion. But we'll start off with week number one against my favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Now, the New Orleans Saints, I have really high hopes of this year. Since I'm a Saints fan, I'm always going to be expecting a lot out of them. And this year, I think they have a better chance. They've got a big, high star-studded, a little bit younger roster, in my opinion. Not very many changes on the defensive side of the ball, honestly. And they got the quarterback in Derek Carr. I just think the fact that they outweigh the Titans in every single position, I'm going to have to give the Titans the loss for week one. And I think Derrick Henry has himself a great game. That's the thing I think that happens the most. But the Titans' defense, which has recently been a little bit shaky for knowing to be a usually good defense, I think that New Orleans pulls out this win and kind of solidifies their start of the season, while Tennessee kind of shows that they're a little bit iffy to start the season. And Tannehill, I think he plays a little bit questionable, and then the whole Will Levis, should he start, will rise up. But we'll go with New Orleans beating Tennessee, and Tennessee starting the season 0-1. As for week two, they're playing the Los Angeles Chargers in Tennessee. Their home opener. I was very close to giving Tennessee this game, but I'm not. I'm going to give it to the Chargers. I have high hopes for the Chargers as well. I think they're going to be even better than they did last year. They went 10-7 last year, was a wild card team, and then blew the 27-point lead to Jacksonville, Tennessee's divisional rival, in the wild card round of the playoffs last year. The Jacksonville team that beat the Chargers, this Chargers team they played last year was good, but it wasn't going to be this good. I mean, the Chargers that the Tennessee Titans are going to be playing against week 2 have their new addition in Quentin Johnston. They have a Eckler still. They're keeping him. They got Justin Herbert with another weapon, as I just said, with Quentin Johnston. And he's got Kellen Moore at OC. I think Kellen Moore at OC is going to be very big for Justin Herbert. He's going to be able to unleash and call the right plays in the times needed. So I give the Chargers the win over the Titans. I think the Titans' defense has a lot better game in this game. Obviously, Derrick Henry, I think, will go for probably 150 yards in this game. He most definitely can because of the Chargers' defense. I'm not the biggest fan of the Chargers' defense. If Joey Bosa is your best player, and he's always getting hurt, and then same with Derwin James. Derwin James' health has been a little bit of a concern recently. So I'm gonna give the win to the Chargers. I think this game will be up to which offense struggles more. And once again, this is just a whole problem with, can Ryan Tannehill be that quarterback that he can be? When he first came to Tennessee and took over for Marcus Mariota that one year, and then the year that they had the number 1 seed, but then lost to Cincinnati in the divisional round 2 years ago. That's going to be week 2. Tennessee, I have them going week 3 against Cleveland. I actually have them winning this game in Cleveland. I think that Cleveland is going to be a very shaky year. They're gonna have a much better year than last year with a full, healthy Deshaun Watson, Elijah Moore. But I think that Tennessee is got that fact. They've got that ability to shock teams. And, I mean, when you've got Derrick Henry running it down your throat, it's kind of just hard to stop that. In Cleveland, I think we'll just get worn out. Do I see Cleveland winning this game possibly? Yes, but I'm going to have Tennessee winning this game, and that's going to put Tennessee at 1-2 on the year. Week 4, they play Cincinnati at home. I think Cincinnati wins this one. They had a pretty good game that they played against each other last year until the 15-yard penalty that put the Bengals pretty much into a guaranteed winning scenario last season. I don't think it will happen again. I think Cincinnati runs away with this one. And I think this is the game where really Ryan Tannehill shows that he shouldn't be the starting quarterback. I think Will Levis comes in around week 5, week 6 against Indy or Baltimore. However, I see them losing to Indy week 5. I think Anthony Richardson shows out against Indianapolis and shows his legs. I don't think he goes to the arm. I think his legs will really just showcase in this game. I think Indianapolis beats Tennessee in week 5. Week 6, they go and play Baltimore. And actually, I'm going to have them beating Baltimore. I think that Derrick Henry's biggest thing against the Baltimore Ravens is that he always seems to just do very well against them, except that one wild card year. He had the divisional round year where he ran all over the 14-2 Ravens, the number 1 seed. I think he does it again. I think they go out there. I think it's in London as well. I think they go out there and they just dominate on the running game, and that's all they really need. I think Will Levis might actually play in this game. I think Will Levis shows out. As much as I don't really like Will Levis, I still think that he has a good, decent game for like his first game of the season. And this is about the time where I think Will Levis becomes the starter for the Tennessee Titans. And they get the win. And going into their bye week, which is week 7, they have a record of 2-4, which is not great. This is what I expect from the Titans. Last year they came into the bye week 7-2. Not bye week, but they were 7-2 at week 10, and they just threw it all away. So if they threw it all away that year, I just don't see them being able to do that again, pick it all up and throw it away again. I just think them not being great. Unless Will Levis can really be that determining factor. But I don't think he is. However, when they come back from their bye week, they play Atlanta at home, and I think they will beat the Birds. They will beat the Falcons. And that is mainly because I don't trust in the Falcons. I don't think the Falcons are going to be a very good team this year. A lot of people do. I think the Falcons' defense is definitely improved, but the Falcons are still the Falcons. Desmond Ridder is not going to be a winning quarterback for the Falcons. He was a winning quarterback at Cincinnati, but you saw the pieces he had around him on defense, especially on the other side of the ball. He doesn't have that in Atlanta, so I think this isn't going to be another trial year. Not another trial year, but another test run for the Atlanta Falcons. So I think Tennessee, with the already established roster, and then another hot streak Will Levis, will go into Tennessee, beat Atlanta, defend their home turf, and advance 2, 3, and 4 on the year. Next game, they're going to be traveling to Pittsburgh, and I think Pittsburgh will absolutely manhandle them. I'm very high on Pittsburgh. I think Kenny Pickett's going to have a great sophomore year. No sophomore slump from him. Najee Harris will look a little bit more like his rookie self again. And George Pickens is going to be a breakout wide receiver for the Steelers. As for the Titans, I think the biggest thing for the Titans at this point of the year is the fact that Will Levis is connecting with guys like Treylon Burks, but there's really no other guys on this roster. The tight end, which I can't think of his name right now, but it's a little bit of a long one. Those two guys are going to be huge, and I think Treylon Burks will be very good throughout the season so far at this point. But I don't think it's enough to beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. It's a very difficult place no matter how good Pittsburgh is. Beating them in Pittsburgh is very hard, formerly known as Heinz Field. I don't know the new name now. So that puts them at 3-5 heading into Week 10. In Week 10, they play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is going to be the worst team, one of the worst teams in the league. The Titans win this one easily, advancing to get their 4th win of the season. They're going to be 4-5 after that one, and they're going to be looking a little bit up. Hey, they've won 3 of their last 4 games. Maybe they can turn it around. Maybe they can compete with the clear favorite Jacksonville Jaguars to win this division. And then I think this is where it gets a little shaky for them. They play the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is going to be a big game for them. They can either go to 500 or they could go to 4-6. And I think the answer is they go to 4-6. They're not going to win in Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's got too good of a squad against Tennessee. I think Will Levis, once again, he plays a pretty decent game, but he struggles second half. Derrick Henry might have a little bit of a struggle. I think Derrick Henry only goes for about 80 yards in this game. And they're going to go to 4-6. And we're going to make it 4-7. I'm going to have them lose to the Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young, over halfway through his season, is going to get his footing. And he's really going to step it up against Tennessee and get the win against the Titans. And so that's going to put him at 4-7. Next game is against Indianapolis in Tennessee, and I'm going to give it to them, putting them at 5-7. They're still fighting. They're crawling back, trying to get this division a chance and try and win this thing, as the Jacksonville Jaguars will probably be in first. However, the Indianapolis Colts team, they'll be able to shut down Anthony Richardson. I think the Titans defense kind of hammers down for this game. Puts them at 5-7. But then the very next week, all of that rally momentum is shattered when they go and face Miami. Tua, I think, is set for a great year. So I'm going to give Tennessee the loss there, putting them at 5-8. And then going to 5-9, I'm going to have them losing to the Houston Texans. I think the Texans don't win very many games this year, but I think the Texans get the Titans' number. The fact that I feel like C.J. Stroud will be under control and be ready to roll with his weapons at this point of the year, and with the defense that they have with Derek Stingley and Will Anderson Jr., the Texans will stop the Titans in their tracks. However, Derrick Henry's going to have a great game, in my opinion. But they still go to 5-9. And then Seattle, who I have huge hopes for next year with Geno Smith. I don't see the Titans beating them. My biggest concern with the Titans is if Will Levis is going to be as efficient as people think he was. I look at his college stats, and I'm not impressed. And when I see him start, I think he's going to be a decent quarterback. He'll be one of those fringe guys. He could be like like a Jared Goff, like early Jared Goff, oh, okay, he's okay. He's not good, he's not bad. That's what I see Will Levis kind of being like, a guy that throws for touchdowns, but he throws for interceptions too. He's got a lot of interceptions, a lot of touchdowns. But that's going to put the Titans at 5-10, and I actually think for the next week when they go to Houston, they get swept by the Texans. I think the Texans have very few games that they win, and these are two of them that they win. I'm not confident in the Titans to be a consistent team this year. But with the final week of the season, week 18, they play Jacksonville at home. Jacksonville rests their starters for the playoffs, and the Titans get the win here to finish their season 6-11, which I will put as my third place team in the AFC South. As I've been saying, I'm just a little worried for the Titans. Their offense for how many years has been Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill's been there, but Ryan Tannehill's getting old. He's regressed according to last year. And I think he'll regress even more to the point where Will Levis comes in, and I don't think Will Levis is going to be that much of an X factor for this team to end up becoming a playoff roster. He's not. Their defense is a good defense, but I think it's going to be an all right to okay defense next year. And unfortunately for Titans fans, they're going to go 6-11, third in the division. Next up, what I'm going to start with next is going to be a big team. This next team is a pretty popular team from last year. As I was talking about them earlier, they just got off of a wild card victory in the AFC playoffs and a small short loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional. This team that we're talking about now is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars, as you can see the schedule on the screen if you're watching on YouTube today, I think they're going to do great. They went 9-8 last year. I think they'll be better, 1 or 2 games better in my opinion. They're going to win their division. And I thought were going to do a lot of damage last year, which they kind of did in the playoffs. They almost beat Kansas City, lost by, I think, 1 score, 2 scores. I think they go in, they can do that again. I mean, I don't know if they can win against them, right? But I love Jacksonville's team that they've got, and I love their coach in Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson is one of my favorite coaches. So to start off with them, I'll say it right now. They're going to, for the first 4 weeks, they go 3-1. They play 2 divisional rivals, the Indianapolis Colts in week 1, which they will win, and the Houston Texans in week 3, which they will also win. And as for week 2, they play the Chiefs. I think it'll be a competitive game, but they're not going to be able to stop Patrick Mahomes. And then week 4 against the Colts will. Oh, not the Colts. The Falcons. The Falcons will win that. Lose that to the Jaguars. As for week 5, they go to overseas and they will play the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills will win this one. Again, the Bills are a great regular season team, but they're not that good of a playoff team. So since it's the regular season, they will win that one, putting the Jaguars at 3-2. But it's fine. They will bounce back the very next week and go 4-2 after the victory against the Colts, and then after the victory the next week to advance to 5-2 to the New Orleans Saints. They will beat the New Orleans Saints, which hurts for me to say. The week after that, they play Pittsburgh, and once again, I've got high hopes on Pittsburgh. I think they're going to be good. They play in a great division, which there's going to be 4 teams that could possibly all 4 be over 500. I've got Pittsburgh beating them. It is in Pittsburgh, so that makes it even harder. But I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars heading into their bye week at 5-3. Now, if you remember, I had Tennessee heading into their bye week at 2-4. So this is a lot different for Jacksonville. Jacksonville's going to be riding a little bit of a low wave after losing heading into their bye week. They've got a lot to talk about. And I think this first half of their season for them, the reason they're going to be where they're at is because of Trevor Lawrence. He's going to have himself that Jalen Hurts breakout year. Everybody's talking about like, oh, Justin Fields is going to have himself his Jalen Hurts year or his Josh Allen year. If we're going to have any quarterback really break out this year, it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. He's got Doug Peterson. He's got the weapons in Christian Kirk. He's got Evan Ingram. He's got Zay Jones. But we're forgetting he's getting Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and people seem to forget it. And it's like, how are you going to forget that this dude, who was when he's fully healthy, was playing the top 10 numbers? He was like the wide receiver 7 in fantasy before he kind of like left for his mental health, and then obviously he got suspended for the whole year for gambling. It's going to be a great team, and don't forget about their defense. Their defense is very good. It's not Saxonville, but it's a good defense. And that's something that Jacksonville really prides themselves on, is having a good defense most of the time. So they come out of their bye week, unfortunately lose because they're playing the San Francisco 49ers and go to 5-4. But then this is when they really start riding the wave. They win 2 divisional games and advance to 7-4. They beat Tennessee and then they beat Houston, which puts them at 7-4 and pretty high up against the other teams in their division, because they are the only one with a winning record at this point. They play Cincinnati. I don't think they win it. I think Cincinnati sneaks one out against Jacksonville. And then they play Cleveland, which I think Cleveland will beat Jacksonville. They'll finally be able to get their stuff together. They'll be towards the second half of the year. That's when I think Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns really pick it up. But then they play Baltimore. And then Baltimore will lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So to start it off, the first half, they finished at 5-3 going into their bye week. Second half, they're at 3-3 right now. So how are they going to finish their season? With a win against Tampa Bay and a win against Carolina, putting them at a 5-3 record again. So they are 10-6 heading into the last week of the season, not needing a victory, not really needing to play their starters, keeping their starters healthy for this wild card team they're going to be playing in the next round, which I honestly could see being the Chargers again. It's either the Chargers, the Bills, or the Dolphins, I think. Or maybe the Jets, but I don't think the Jets make the playoffs, to be honest. It could be a little bit of a shaky year for them. So Week 18, they give the win to the Tennessee Titans, as I said earlier, making the Jaguars finish at 10-7, and they are your AFC South champs. As I said, I'm just excited to watch Trevor Lawrence play another year. It's his 3rd season. He had a great second year, in my opinion. I think Trevor Lawrence is definitely set for a breakout year. Be ready to watch this team absolutely kill teams and absolutely just be able to go out there and dominate the passing game. You can't also forget they got Travis Etienne at running back. They've got so many offensive weapons, and they had a defensive team that can get stops when they need them to. So this is going to be a good playoff team, finishing at 10-7 and winning the division. As for the next team, we've got the Indianapolis Colts, who I would love to see a great season from them. The schedule's up on the board. If you can see it, I don't know if they're going to have that good of a season. They could have a 9-8, 8-9 season, in my opinion, but I'm going to have them with the records, as I say, listed below. I think they start off the season 0-4. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think Anthony Richardson kind of shows that the boom or bust was truly the big thing, and he starts off as a bust, a big bust. And everybody's like, when's the boom coming? When's he going to do it? And then that's when Week 5 against Tennessee, he really shines and shows his potential with his legs in the NFL. Wins that game and goes to 1-4. But then they lose to Jacksonville again, making him 1-5. But they beat Cleveland, and then they lose to New Orleans. So they're going to be at 2-6. 2-6. And the next 2 games they win against Carolina and New England, going into the bye week at 4-6. Now, the reason I have them going into their bye week at 4-6 is I think around that Week 5, Week 6 mark is when Anthony Richardson really starts to step it up and show the fact that he is a long-term project, not having just bad games, which I think he will have in the first couple weeks, against teams like the Rams and the Ravens and the Jags and Texans, as it shows. I think the Texans be able to sneak that one out against Indianapolis. But I think he turns it around. I think he gets the head-to-head matchup against the number one overall team, number one overall draft pick in Bryce Young because of the defense. And that's something I need to talk about. Is Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, they're good on the offense, but the Colts defense is usually very underrated. I mean, last year it was a little bit okay, but they've got a good defense most of the time, and that's something that I think they're going to pride themselves on, and that's why they're going to be 4-6 heading into their bye week. There's going to be those games where they don't play great, but then there's going to be those 4 wins that they've won where they were the determining factor in those games, where they shut down Deshaun Watson, where they shut down the Tennessee Titans, where they shut down Bryce Young, they shut down Ramondre Stevenson. That's what's going to happen. They're going to find and complete their game plans. Then coming out of the bye week, they will come out of the bye week strong with a win against Tampa Bay, and then actually start to fall down. They're going to go on a 3-game losing streak against Tennessee, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh. The 2 AFC North teams, the reason I've got them winning, I think the AFC North could potentially have 4 winning records in it. They did, I'm pretty sure, almost did last year. I think the worst team was the Browns at 8-9, which is absolutely wild. And Mike Tomlin does not get losing seasons. He went 8-1 with that team last year when they were like 4-8 and 5-8. So I think they lose those 3. Excuse me. And then Tennessee, as I said, I think that game, Will Levis will have a lot better of a game than he had at this point of the season. So Will Levis gets that one out. And that will put them at, what is that? If they're 4-6, that'll put them at 5-9. Which, unfortunately for Colts fans, doesn't get any better from there. However, you do win 2 of your last 3 against Atlanta. And you win it against Atlanta, and you win against Las Vegas. And you win against Houston and Atlanta. You lose to Vegas. And that will put you at 7-10 for the year, second place in your division, with wins over Tennessee, Cleveland, Carolina, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, New England, and Houston. 7 wins. I hope they have a better season than that, but I don't see it. I think this division's awful. This division's not good. And speaking of not good, we're going to go to the last team of the division, which is the Houston Texans. Which, here's the biggest thing about them, is they're going to have a good time having C.J. Stroud at quarterback. He hopefully can have a great season. Will Anderson Jr. is going to be a great pass rusher for them. But my problem for it is they don't have their next year first-round pick. That is the biggest problem with this team this year, especially because, I'm going to tell you right now, I got them at 5-12. Right off the bat, 5-12. They're gonna beat Tennessee, Indianapolis, Tampa Bay, Arizona. That's it. They beat Tennessee twice. I'm gonna have them give them the sweep against Tennessee, and I'm gonna keep it short and sweet about the Texans. Here's the thing about the Texans is C.J. Stroud's gonna have himself his good year, but with the weapons that the Texans have, with Nico Collins and no longer having Cooks, as he's a Cowboy now. Having Nico Collins, Tank Dell, the newly drafted wide receiver. I mean, Jordan Akins is probably still their tight end, I believe. I'm not confident in the weapons he's got. I mean, Dameon Pierce in the backfield will be a good one for him. I think the bright side of this Texans team will be their young guys on defense, like Derek Stingley Jr., Jalen Petre, and Will Anderson Jr. I think those are their biggest bright spot is the defensive youngsters that are showing to be going to be future stars. I think that's what makes the Texans go 5-12 this year. But the problem with that is I think the Texans have one of the lowest records in the league. And without that first-round pick and the pick going to Arizona, who is most likely going to be a bottom 3 team in the league, That's a big problem because Arizona is probably going to be set to get 2 of the top 3 picks in the first round next year, which could be players like a Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., depending on where they get those records. Those records go and those draft picks are. But as for the Texans, C.J. Stroud will have himself a good year. Will Anderson Jr. will have himself another dominant season like he has been having in college. Derek Stingley Jr., I think, improves a ton. Jalen Petre is one of my favorite safeties in the league. I think he plays very well. My biggest problem for the Texans is if they are able to produce efficiently on offense with C.J. Stroud and Dameon Pierce in the backfield with the weapons that they have and the weapons that they lack more as. And that's going to be it for the Texans. And that actually will conclude today. That is the AFC South. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. NFC South is coming next week. We're going to have a big special guest on there. I'm not going to announce it yet. But he's a good friend of mine. He's a good guy. He loves an NFC South team that is not the Saints. So that might be a little hint for anybody watching that knows me. But that's going to be it for today. AFC South, to finish it off, we've got the 4th place Texans at 5-12, the 3rd place Titans at 6-11, the 2nd place Colts at 7-10, and then the division winners, the Jacksonville Jaguars, at 10-7. There you are. There you have it, and that is it for today. Make sure, if you're listening on YouTube, subscribe, like, put comments down on what you want to see, what comments, concerns. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure to follow the podcast, Apple, follow the podcast, and then follow the Instagram for post updates, everything else. That's kind of my biggest distributor is on Instagram, is where I get everything out, post-wise and podcast-wise. So get ready for that. That's going to be fun to have up on there. We're going to have some stuff on there from this episode, and yeah, get ready for the NFC South one. That'll be a big one, as I am a huge Saints fan. My friend's a huge fan of the NFC South team, which I won't disclose yet. But that'll be good. Once again, thank you for listening or watching on YouTube, and we will see y'all next week.